guys, this is the entrance to Cape Coast Castle. We are entering now to the front part. We have finally arrived.
In West Africa. Out of that, Ghana had over 40 of them, all because of our gold. But some of the forts, especially in Ghana, are no more. Now have about 19 forts, 3 castles existed. First castle built in Ghana is the one in Elmina, St. George's Castle, built by the Portuguese in the year 1482. 1482, being the oldest, the largest, the biggest castle in the country, oldest European structure in entire West Africa. Elmina Castle is about 539 years old, almost 540. Second castle is in Accra, Christiansborg, Osu, built by the Danes, Denmark, 1662. This is the youngest, the third, the last castle, Cape Coast Castle, built by the British, this English castle, around 1664. About 357 years old. Very old, but the structure is still strong. Surprisingly, the original structure, like in here, by the British, has no cement, no annual roads. Any cement mortar you see here is for recent restoration works. They used building materials like burnt bricks imported, lime powder from oyster shells with oil and sand as binder, stones, pitch pine timber with cheap African labor. They built the castle. So imagine the number of Africans who died during the period of construction. Transatlantic slave trade, or the triangular trade. The Europeans came to West Africa here with several reasons. They came to search for minerals like gold, spread Christianity, search for an alternative route to India to circumvent the Arabs who came to Africa first. But the Arabs mainly settled at the northern part of Africa. And they were there fast spreading Islam, taking minerals as well as slaves via the Sahara Desert, sold them in Asian markets in what they called trans-Saharan slave trade. So the Europeans wanted to break the monopoly the Arabs were enjoying by finding the source of these minerals themselves. So they started to explore. Led by the Portuguese, under the patronage of Prince Henry the Navigator, they started from Ceuta. Ceuta is around Morocco, Senegambia. 1471, they got to our coast here. And their first point of contact here was Anumonsa. But the Portuguese had a lot of gold from Anumonsa, so they named the area El Mina, which means the mine, now corrupted Elmina. So Elmina was called Anumonsa. 1482, they started building Elmina Castle, led by Christopher Columbus, who spent some couple of weeks in Elmina. Same Portuguese got to the Americas around 1492. 1492. When they got there, they saw fertile land, good for agriculture. So the Europeans started growing plantations, large-scale farms. Labor became a problem because they were using the natives of America, and you may know they named them the Red Indians. But they were not effective because they were dying of tropical diseases, malnutrition and others. And as they were here, they knew the potentials in Africans, very strong, able to withstand tropical diseases. Naturally, farmers, they said, no, Africans we know could work better than those who've engaged. So a Catholic bishop by name Bartolome de las Casas petitioned to the Spanish crown to allow importation of Africans directly from Africa to the New World. His petition was granted, and transatlantic slave trade officially began. And the Europeans started getting our ancestors by raiding and kidnapping, initially from the immediate environment. For instance, they could set a whole village on fire, and as the people around in helter-skelter for their lives, they kidnapped the youth. You could be working on your farm with your children. You look back and they are kidnapped away. Even if you see them, you try to resist, you could be shot because they were armed. Sometimes they deceived some of our people. For instance, let's go to our home countries. We will give you better lives. They ended up working for them. Let's go inside our ships and have fun. The locals understood free-mindedly, and you know how hospitable we are. They packed their drums and other instruments, went with them, and as they were enjoying, the Europeans intentionally gave them a lot of alcoholic beverages, chained, shackled them, and in time they realized they were on the high seas. There were some instances when some Africans, some chiefs, traditional rulers, prominent personalities, brought some captives and sold. But they were not selling their brothers and sisters, their children, as sometimes people want us to believe. Most of the people they brought were rather their prisoners of war, people who were captured from warfare. As we know, there was nothing like Ghana, nor Togo, nor Burkina Faso. Demarcation of Africa took place around 1884, 1885, when all the European countries then, with the exception of Switzerland, met with the United States of America in Germany in what they called the Berlin Conference, and demarcated, shared the continent of Africa to themselves, scrambled for Africa. And sadly, Africans themselves were not part of the Berlin Conference. And we as Africans are still holding on to these boundary things the Europeans left for us. What I'm trying to say is, there were tribes, kingdoms, ethnic groups. All these groups wanted to expand. It's that they were fighting among themselves. For instance, I'll be fighting this ethnic group over a parcel of land. If I defeat him, instead of killing him and his subjects, I will rather abduct them, set some out for gangan powder, take over the land and all the natural resources that come with it. Next time, use these ammunitions to fight my next opponent. And sadly, we still see this in Africa. We fight ourselves. So these and other persons became victims. And wherever they got them, mainly from West Africa, from different racial stocks, like the proud Fantis, the warlike Ashantis, the creative Yorubas, the gentle Madingos, the spirited Hausas, the Igbos, the Ewes, the Achims, and others. They marched them on footpath. They walked in chains and shackles. Some of them died on the way. Because imagine, walking from Kumasi to Cape Coast, over 200 kilometers. Tamale is over 400. Relatively, Kumasi, Tamale is not far, because others came from present day, like Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali, and others. Because Gold Coast, now Ghana, became the major transit point for a lot of the enslaved Africans. Those who survived these long journeys. In this castle, for instance, when they arrived, they took them upstairs into a hall called with the British. The son Philip was awarded scholarship by the church to study in Britain. Philip attended Oxford University, ordained, became first black person to be ordained a priest of the Anglican Church. He came back, worked with the British for 50 years as clergyman, missionary, and a schoolmaster in the church and the school. Philip died 17th October 1816. He was 75 years old. 1816 meaning Philip came or even died before slave trade was abolished in this castle. Because as I indicated, slave trade was abolished in this castle 1833. So Philip was preaching the gospel upstairs. His fellow Africans were dying in the dungeons. But every 17th October, the Anglican people, especially those in Cape Coast, celebrate it. They come here surround, say a prayer. In the country, Church of England is now Anglican. Anglican churches are all over Ghana. Methodist Church Ghana started from this spot yard. Catholic started from Elmina Castle. The church is now children's library. So school children come to the library to read. And the church sits on the male dungeon. This is the spy hole we just saw from the male dungeon. Remember? And as indicated, sometimes they were dropping food to this one for the male captives. So imagine a British missionary or reverend minister like Philip Kwaku was passing for a service, had something like leftover bread, he could just drop it down to this hole, and the captives in the dungeons will struggle for it. After this same person will pass, enter the church, sing praises like Amazing Grace, which was originally composed by John Newton. John Newton was once a slave ship captain. Later, he repented and became a reverend minister. And as they were singing Amazing Grace, they made sure there's someone standing here, listening to whatever going on in the dungeon. When they were planning to attack or escape, they reported to the British and they punished them. Probably, captives in the dungeons had the British in the church singing, preaching, but they couldn't come out to join them worship. Because as the Bible says, for in hell, there's no way you could go to heaven. As I said earlier, ironically, heaven appeared, hell down there.